Welcome to Pandora's Awareness Podcast, a place where we collect stories and circulate life-changing wisdom. I am your host, Asher, and our guest today is Carrie. And you're here because we get to talk about first-time experiences on this Monday. And Carrie, if you don't mind telling us where you're hailing from, what you specialize in, and how you add value to the world. And
Sure.
also who you been a hero to. Yes, I want to know that too.
Okay. All right. Well, I am calling in to you from sunny Long Beach, California. And yeah, I specialize in working with people going through major life changes,
Mm,
especially bereavement, loss of a spouse, loss of a partner, a child, loss of a job, going through major life changes where you suddenly, just have the rug kind of pulled out from under you and you're wondering, how are you going to get your footing back? So those are the people I work with. I do it as a coach. I'm a coach. I've been doing this for quite some time now, about 12 years.
mm,
And, it's my own experience that got me into serving this kind of people going through loss. And yeah, I have a lot of heroes around this work, but I think my biggest hero is one of my mentors, Robert Holden. I was thinking about him today, so he's the
mm,
person I'm going to share with you. So I've got to learn a lot from him about self-compassion, compassion for others, letting love do the work of healing. So he's my hero today.
mm. And I'm curious about the word loss. Why that word? Like, if you gotta break that word down and tell us what's beneath it, how
Well,
would you describe it?
we lose things all the time, right? We lose our keys. It's not that kind of loss we're talking about. It's the sudden disappearance of a person or a thing or
Mm,
something that we've been attached to.
mm,
It's that person is no longer here, sometimes because they've died, sometimes because they've divorced us, sometimes because they've just ghosted us, but they were important to us and they're no longer in our lives. Like I said, that can also go for a job. You walk in to your work and you love your work, and all of a sudden they're pulling you in and saying, "Well, we're reorganizing the department, and it's been real, but you got to go." So
mm,
it's when we connect with something and put our heart into it, and it's a daily part of our lives, and then all of a sudden it's no longer there. We feel feelings of loss and grief.
mm. And why is that so important for you?
Well, it's important for me because I feel like as a society, we're not really well equipped to deal with loss. We have a lot of well-meaning people in our lives who want us to feel better and get over it as soon as we can and move on. And so not only do we not how to support ourselves when we're going through a major loss and the grief that accompanies it, but we don't know how to support others. And I really think that that's part of my mission, is to help people support and love one another when we're hurting.
Mm. And if you had to share with us one of your first time experiences with loss that have changed your life, what would that be?
Yeah, as I shared with you, I was working in the field of grief and loss for quite some time, and it was 3 years ago when my husband suddenly passed away. We had
Mm,
taken him into the hospital because he wasn't feeling well, and all of a sudden, when he got to the hospital, he had a heart attack, and he was pretty much gone from
mm,
that time. And it was a sudden, unexpected, traumatic loss. My first time losing
mm.
a husband, for sure. Hopefully the last. Never want to go through that again. Yeah, yeah, but it changed my life,
Mm,
incredibly, in painful ways and also in ways that in the end, um, I've grown from it. I wouldn't say that it's for the better. I've grown from it, though.
mm,
I've grown in in awareness. I've grown in the ability to support people who have gone through the same thing. I've also grown in my compassion and my ability to just slow down and be with people when they're hurting.
Mm. Well, my condolences, Carrie. Wasn't
Thank you.
expecting that one.
I know. I thought I'd surprise you.
Wasn't expecting that one.
Yep,
That's definitely one that doesn't matter. Doesn't matter how strong you are. That one's going to teach you a lot about yourself.
that's right. I
Yeah.
mean, it's talk about having the rug pulled out from under you. And even as we're experiencing this conversation today, it's not something we really talk about,
Mm,
in just sort of polite conversation. It's like, oh yeah, by the way, my husband died 3 years
mm,
ago. It's just not, we
mm,
don't talk about these things, which I don't know why not. It's part of life. We get to be my age and as we get older, we
mm,
lose more. We lose more people. I can't tell you how many pets,
mm.
I've lost over the years, 'cause I'm a big dog and cat owner. So we do have to deal with it.
Mm. And if you had to think, like, I know people listen to this, and I mean, we won't like. I don't think there's ways you can prepare
No,
for that experience itself. You just can understand that. I mean, there's people you can talk to and love on, and be around you and so forth and so on. But really, that experience itself, that individualized experience for you, that is it's packaged and waiting for you in some part of your future. Like, there's no way to prepare for it. But if you
that's
had
right.
to, if you had to tell somebody about like your recipe that you've discovered, like going through that experience itself, that like, oh my God, this is the thing that it was like the thing that kept me together. Like, what would that be?
Well, for some people, it could be faith,
Mm,
faith in God. I do have a strong faith. I don't belong to a particular denomination,
mm,
but it really helped me to understand and know that even in the worst times of it, I was being held. I was
mm,
being held by the universe, by God. I was being held by love, and I was not alone. I think that's one of the things that people really suffer from is that feeling of being abandoned, being
mm,
left alone to deal with all this,
mm,
uncertainty and pain and all of that. So for me, you make a really good point. Even if you're a caregiver for somebody that you love very much and you kind of know at some point they will be passing, nothing really prepares you for that time when it actually happens.
mm,
So I would just say to people, be patient, be kind to yourself, pace yourself, and reach out for some support. I had support going through it. It's one of those things that we shouldn't have to go through alone.
mm. I can only imagine.
Hmm.
But in everything, there's always a gift. So
Hmm.
what was that gift that your husband granted you by leaving?
Mm. There were certain things I think in partnerships, it's like you handle this, I will handle that. And
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to know about that over there. And you don't need to, but it's like we had our partnership agreement, right?
Yeah.
And technology was he was an engineer. He was an
Mm,
aerospace engineer, super smart guy, could figure out anything.
mm-hmm.
Me, not so much, right? So technology, that was his department, right? Um, and when he passed, I really had to get on board with, I'm going to have to figure out how to work the remote. Okay. If I ever want to watch TV again. And
The
just
simple one.
stupid things like that. Well, him being an engineer, the remote was like this like huge thing that had thousands of buttons on it. And I was like, I just want to turn the TV on. Okay. And I remember I had to handle a lot of things like that by myself. Like when he passed, it was because he passed suddenly.
Mm,
There were just a lot of things that I didn't know that he handled. And
mm,
come to find out, while we had the finances, we really talked about everything, but he was the one who loved to deal with all that stuff. So come
mm-hmm.
to find out, okay, well, I don't have any credit cards that are actually in my name. And,
Mm.
so I had to learn about finances. I had to learn about technology. I had to learn about how to fix that beeping thing that's coming from that smoke detector. All of these things that seem simple, but the, in the middle of it, I would just sit down on the floor and cry because I just like I couldn't figure it out. So one of the strengths is I had to get a lot more self-resilient,
Mm.
what's the word? Uh, Being able to just handle the things of life. And if I couldn't figure out how to fix it, I figured out how to hire somebody to do it.
Mm. Mm.
So self-sufficiency, I learned how to do things that I didn't think I could do,
Mm.
getting up on in the crawl space of the house, just things like that. So I think that those kinds of appreciations and acknowledgments of the skills and the things that you have to learn when you go from being a we for so many years to
Mm-hmm.
suddenly being a me, it's just like, well, I'm the only one here. I got to do it. So I learned I could count on myself.
Mm. Interesting. I'm going to tap into that we and then to me because
Hmm.
while you was enjoying the we part of life, a lot of people are in the me part of life looking for the we part of life.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then it's very difficult to transition from the me to the we because it's like, it's trusting that person. But then
Hmm.
when it's the we thing, like you trust each other, but then you gotta go back and trust in you. And then it's like, that back and forth thing. So I'm curious about the transition for you, like transition from the we to the me. Like
Hmm.
what did that feel like for you?
Well, it's having those sentences where you start with, "Hey, we love this restaurant." It's like, "Whoops, no, I love this restaurant."
Mm-hmm.
It's like you're so used to speaking for it's not just the royal we,
Mm-hmm.
It's
Mm-hmm.
like I'm talking about my partner and I. We like to, my husband and I like to vacation in Puerto Rico. We love that place. And so it's like changing your languaging for one thing, because
Mm-hmm.
it's kind of startling when we keeps coming out of your mouth and it's just me.
Mm-hmm.
So just changing your languaging, really looking at it's an opportunity when you're so used to, like, I'll take planning vacations as an example. Tom and I love to do a lot of the same things. So when we planned a vacation, we planned it around the things that we love to do and that we were both able to do. Now
Mm-hmm.
he was less physically capable than I am, so I would limit it to we wouldn't be walking for 3 miles, so that kind of. And I took a vacation to San Francisco about a year after he had passed. And this was a city that we would go to at least once a year just because we love San Francisco. And I went by myself specifically to experience the same hotel that we would stay at, the same restaurants that we went to, but by myself. And I also added experiences to the trip that I know that he wouldn't have wanted to do, like a walking trip to the Mission District
Mm-hmm.
or biking across the Bay Bridge, So from going from to making this really about, well, what do I like? What do I want?
Mm-hmm.
What's important to me? And I've made a lot of changes in my life, just sort of dialing into that really important question of why am I here?
Mm-hmm.
And what is my contribution to the world? And what do I enjoy? What do I want to invest my time and money in?
Mm. No, that's interesting. Today I was having a conversation on this one question. You probably be gonna see it where I'm seeing it too, but it's the question about how did I get here? Because I was
Hmm.
talking to a couple of my friends who was trying to think of, that could be my next working book title. It was like thinking about like if I talk about my life, my story, the timeline, the sequence of it, so forth, so on, go back at how do I get here and figure out what that journey was like and the things that got me here, the version of myself over time that got me here, and just figure out what that feels like, what that looks like, paint a picture to somebody so they can see, wow, Asher, I see how you got here. Then you gotta ask yourself the same question, how did you get here? How
Hmm.
much time do you reflect back on how you got here? So if I had to ask you that question now, and you gotta give us the picture of how did you get here to this point right now, what would that story sound like?
Yeah, such a great question. It's a beautiful question. I hope you ask that of everybody, on the show, right? Because I feel like, for me at least, I've lived my life in chapters. I
Hmm.
lived my life, as a professional musician, played in an orchestra, and then the next career was I worked in education. And then the next career was becoming a coach. Um, also, I also feel like there's golden threads that kind of weave their way through our lives, no matter what chapter we're in. It could
Hmm.
be like what interests me, and what always interested me was people.
Hmm.
What makes them tick? What makes them react or respond to lives in the way that they do? What could be considered helpful to somebody who's going through a rough patch in life? What is a path to resilience? So these are some kind of questions that I think have always gone through my life. And so some of the experiences that I went through, like getting my master's degree in spiritual psychology,
Hmm.
uh, studying to get a grief counseling certification. Also, just some of the experiences in the travel that I've been to, the people I've met who have taught me certain things in my life that I've never forgotten. So I feel like, how did I get here? Um, it was really just paying attention to those golden threads,
Hmm.
because if you recognize a thread that goes throughout your life, and you keep following it and you keep hanging on to it, it's going to take you to some really beautiful and amazing places.
Hmm.
So I don't know if anything that I said makes sense, but
Oh, it did. It did. It has me think about something else as well. When you talk about the golden thread, because what I'm doing is a lot of the folks that my community that I'm working with, you know, I love how the system and tools that has showed up these days can help us really analyze things. And oftentimes, when you think about your life, you recognize like what rules have been driving your life the whole time, like what's been in charge of you. And when you talk
mm-hmm,
about that golden thread, that's what's been in charge of you the whole time. And if you
mm-hmm,
recognize like what rules been governing my life this whole time, like what is this underlying value or principle that's been governing my life? And when you recognize that, you understand yourself a lot more. Like this thing has been in charge of me this
mm-hmm,
whole time, right? It's
mm-hmm,
nobody else but this rule that's been running my life. So if you recognize the rules and values or the principles running your life, then you recognize the kind of person you are. So if you had to tell us about those values or rules or principles that been tying you together over those chapters, what would some of those things be?
mm-hmm. As you were talking about that, I was thinking about, okay, the values
Hmm.
that you get handed down to you from your family or from
Hmm.
your community or from, whatever part of society that you're in.
Hmm. Hmm.
So there's those that we learn even before we learn to walk, you know,
Hmm.
and some of those we keep because they make sense to us, and they are valuable throughout our lives. And one of those is family for
Hmm.
me, family. Um, my mother always taught us the importance of having a strong family tie. Even though she was divorced and married 3 times.
Hmm.
But there is something to be cherished about not only my own nuclear family, the family I also produced, but widening that circle to include like soul family, people you're not really related to, but they are your family.
Hmm.
Those friends, those people who you know, that they're there for you, they're thinking about you. So that connection, I would say, connection to family, connection to
Hmm.
what's important, um, putting people first.
Hmm. That is beautiful, and I can only imagine when you because you said family is a really big value on your list and connection, which could probably leads to community, so forth and so on. And when your husband, time was up, I can only imagine how that impact the highest value in your life, which
Hmm.
is family. I can only
Yeah.
imagine. But
Yeah.
if you had to encourage somebody, to, with their own highest value when that's impacted by, a tragedy like your husband, you know,
Mhm.
time's up. Like, how would you encourage them to like keep going?
Well, depending on what it is you value, sometimes people, you know, because they've been married a long time, perhaps, and they had certain like missions or goals that they wanted to accomplish together,
Mm,
certain things that were really important to them. Sometimes it's because you have a child that's impacted by autism or something like that, and you throw yourself into working in that area to assist other people who are also dealing with some a similar thing that you and your family have been behind. I think it's just staying true to, I know a lot of people who continue that kind of work by either donating their time or donating their resources because it keeps them connected to the values of the family. So finding a cause or
mm,
something that's important that is always important to you to be involved in. It's so easy to isolate yourself and get into a feel sorry for yourself kind of, existence when you're dealing with loss. I know, from
mm,
my own experience, but I also know that it's that turning around and looking outwards to be of service to others. Um, it helped me and it helps people that I work with to again just reconnect with their purpose
mm,
of why I'm here. I'm here to serve others. Maybe it's that I serve others that are also going through a loss and are a little, you know, uh, farther behind in the sequence than I am.
mm,
It's even if it's just to, hey, I'll just sit with you for a while because I know this is really hard. So my encouragement would be look for ways to serve because that helps you get out of yourself. It helps you um, focus on others and focus less on yourself.
mm. You mentioned purpose, and sometimes a lot of us have difficulty recognizing what that is.
Mm-hmm.
When I think about purpose, I think about, the Y piece, and
Mm-hmm.
Y is an acronym, which I kind of stand for what helped you or what
Mm.
hurts you.
Mm-hmm.
So it sounds like your purpose was born out of the pain of losing your husband. Am I right?
Well, it started in the work that I do. It started before that. I'd lost
Before
both of
that?
my parents and everything, but it
Mm.
really came home, when my husband passed, that I really wanted to focus on those people going through life who I've suddenly lost a partner.
Wow. Okay, so now you got me in a different perspective. You see, you lost both your
Okay.
parents and your husband.
Yeah.
Mm. How did your body take all of that that energy, man?
It takes time and it
Hmm.
takes gentleness and it takes allowing yourself to have the feelings and
Hmm.
to recognize them, to know I feel so sad right now, to
Hmm.
cry, to
Hmm.
express yourself and to release all of that energy. You said, yeah, how does your body take all that? We need to release the energy from our bodies. If we don't, it just sort of gets
Hmm.
encapsulated and it can become illness. It can become, a deadening of the heart where we just
Hmm.
like, I can't trust myself to care about anybody else because it hurts
Hmm.
too much. And we must try not to do that because, that's just a way to live a life that's too small for us.
Hmm. And you decided you're gonna come out and speak about it.
Yeah, yeah.
That is, no, this is very courageous, by the way. Very courageous because I don't know if I could do it with a face where, like, the tear was start dropping and that's a very, yeah, I don't know, Carrie,
Yeah,
this is
I mean,
impressive.
our tears are not anything to be ashamed of.
Mm-hmm.
No, for sure. I've got a class I'm preparing for Thursday. This is our final class
Mm-hmm.
on rebuilding your life after loss. And, there's a lot of tears that get shed in that classroom
Mm-hmm.
because when you cry together as a community and you don't try to stop it or fix it or, brush it aside, it can be so strengthening that
Mm,
we realize I'm not the only one, and it's natural. This person I loved is no longer here, and I'm adjusting to that. We can be 10 years away from, the loss of somebody, and all of a sudden we are back into the grief because we hear a song, or
mm,
something reminds us of what we've lost. So it's grief isn't something that we recover from and move on from. We adapt to it, we adjust to it. And we do that by being patient with ourselves and with others. And when we need to cry, we cry.
mm,
And when we need to laugh, we laugh.
mm,
It's that is the human condition, right?
mm. So you have some funny moments of you and your husband
Yeah.
used to laugh about?
Well, I have a funny moment. It's a really funny moment, like it's funny about me. So I told you about my technology phobia. So I'm on the phone with the guy from the cable company, or the direct satellite. And I'm telling him, I said, look, my husband passed away. He's the one who handles this account. I need you to walk me through how to do XYZ.
Hmm.
And he's like walking, and I'm not getting it. And I was like, well, back up, do that again. And he says, okay, ma'am, could you put your husband on the phone? I'll explain it to him. And I'm going like, are you kidding me? I said, I'd love to put my husband on the phone, but he's dead.
Oh.
And
I would love to see that guy face now.
he hung up on me. It was so I could have reached through the phone and just smacked him one. It was not funny at the time, but in
Mm,
retrospect, it is funny. I mean, it just goes to show you people, they
mm,
stumble across our pain all the time, you
yeah.
know, and so you deal with it. But
Y-
it's
Yes,
funny looking back at it now. Poor guy.
of course. Mm. He's probably like, oh my God. I
He's
just
like, I just
he probably
I said the worst thing ever
he,
to a widow.
he probably don't even know how to respond to that. He's like, oh my God, I don't know what to
No,
say. Yeah.
no.
I think I got cut. I just got cut off. I'm sorry.
You're right.
We
It's
lost
like,
signal just now. I'm sorry.
we're bad signal. Yeah, he
Yeah.
hung up. He was
No.
like, I don't know what to say.
Mm. No, but people show up in different ways in their life and
Sure, sure.
being a big
If you
help.
haven't experienced it, you don't really know,
Hmm.
and that is the truth. Once you experience a loss like that, when somebody says to you, oh, my husband died, you have a sense of what might be going on for them. I wouldn't say that you understand, because
Hmm.
everybody's grief and everybody's loss is different, right?
Mm.
But if they start talking to you and you go, yep, yeah, I relate, I got you, I get you.
Mm.
That's very healing for both people.
If you had to take us back in the early part of you guys getting here, when did that started for you guys?
When you say you guys, are you talking about me and my husband?
Your husband, yeah.
Yeah. Well, it was second marriages for both of us, so we had,
Mm.
kind of learned what not to do. Learned the hard way, right?
Yeah.
And
First was practice.
for
Practice for
first
this.
practice, well, and I won't say that it was anything that I regret, because I got my daughter through that
Hmm.
marriage. But my second husband, Tom, and we just came into it with eyes open,
Mm.
about, hey, these are the mistakes that I made in my last relationship. I'm committed to do things differently. And it was really a helpful way for us to start our marriage,
Mm.
because we made a commitment to not overlay the past on the future,
Hmm.
and just start fresh. And so we had we had a great way of fighting with each other. Couples fight, right? We don't agree all the time.
We had some
But
good fights.
oh yeah, yeah. And but what I learned through with him was we could fight, I could be angry, but the love was still there.
Mm, mm,
I mean, one time he was so mad at me, he was leaving, and we'd gotten into some argument about nothing, of course. He turns around, he goes, I, the F-bomb, love you. He's shouting. And then I said, well, I, F-bomb, love you too. And it was so funny. It was just so, okay,
mm,
this thing
mm,
we were fighting about is less important than that.
yeah.
Yeah.
Mm,
So we also made the agreement that we wouldn't go to sleep angry, we wouldn't
mhm.
leave the room, or, you know, we wouldn't leave angry at each other. We would resolve it. So
Yeah, that's wonderful.
yeah,
Well, congratulations to you for having really good fights.
thank you. And I was mad at him after he died. It's like, really?
Hmm. Tell
Not,
me about that
yeah.
man. What was that man like?
Well, I think it was the way he passed was so traumatic. He was in the hospital. I don't know if you've ever seen somebody code before, and the
Mm,
swarm of medical personnel come in and they're doing all kinds of things.
mhm,
And after that, he was intubated and pretty much unconscious. So I didn't get to speak to him again between
mm,
the time that I was in the hospital with him and when he passed. I was mad at him for that. And that's it's not rational, right?
He didn't get a chance to give you the
I didn't get a
F-bomb, love
chance
you.
to say goodbye. Yeah, the F-bomb, I love. Yeah. And life is like that. We don't get those neat goodbyes or, completions or anything like that. But
Mm,
uh yeah, it's I still miss him. I was watching something on TV and it was about marriage, and it made me miss him,
mm.
so
Yeah, we got to. If they was important, then
yeah,
we would miss him.
that's right. That's
Yeah.
right.
Hmm. How's your daughter doing?
She's doing really well, thank you. But one of the adjustments that I made last year was I moved to be closer to her. So again, that value of family, when because we were living in Phoenix and that was not my place to live. So
Mm,
I came back, bought a house here right around the corner from my daughter. And my daughter is my first husband, her dad lives with
mhm,
her now. He's not well physically, so we both
mhm,
kind of take care of him. So
mm,
I didn't want her to have to do that by herself.
mm. Wow. Carrie, you have an incredible story, by the way.
Thank you, Asher. Thank you for drawing it out of me in such a beautiful way.
It's, you know that you're focusing on loss, and I'm just listening. You got like a lot of content.
Yeah,
Like I know you talked about. Tell me about your courses and stuff, because I was thinking like you got a lot of content for whoever is going through this process, because
yeah,
you've been certified 3 times already, at least what it sounds like already
yeah.
with that experience. So how's your programs?
Well, my business is called Life's Next Chapter Coaching
Mm,
because, that is kind of, what it feels like. It's like we're closing the page on this chapter and we're
mm,
going into the next one. And so I have a Rebuilding Your Life After Loss
mm-hmm,
course. It's both hybrid, it's an online material plus weekly meetings with me
mm-hmm,
in a group setting. So students in the setting will meet together.
mm-hmm,
It's virtual, so there's that. I'm going to be launching that course in October again. So
mm-hmm,
I do it periodically. I also teach the same material through the Osher Lifelong Learning Institute, which is affiliated with universities all over the country. So
mm-hmm,
I also work with people individually or in groups. I work with people going through divorces also. So I'm a divorce and relationship coach as well.
Mm,
So yeah, that's mainly what I do. And people, if they want to find out, I've got a lot of articles and courses and just resources on my website at Life's Next Chapter Coaching.
mm, perfect. Well, I'm sure somebody listening right now recognize that you could be their hero.
Mm,
Yeah, based on the stuff that you've been through. And like, I'm listening to people when people go through stuff. I'm like, you are like, it's hard for a person like you to judge people that go through that situation
mhm.
because like you've lived it, embodied, you know what it feels like. It's kind of hard because it's like you judging yourself in the same situation. So it's hard to be judgmental in that situation because you've been through it. And I like talking to people that I've went through the thing that I'm trying to go through because I know in that space I won't feel like I'm getting judged.
Right.
Because yeah.
That's so important, Asher, is
Mm-hmm.
the judgment-free zone, because
Mm-hmm.
people mean well, when you're going through something like that, but they will say really hurtful things inadvertently,
Mm-hmm.
you know,
And
and
that's what a lot of people are afraid of. Like, can
yep.
I be myself? Can I share the things that
Hmm.
are making me feel like I'm weak, like I'm not like myself?
Yeah,
And where do you go do that at?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And so it's really important. I tell people it's important to recognize that people in life are they're going to come into three categories. The first category is people are helpful. They know
Mm-hmm.
how to be with you when you say, I'm not fine today. My husband died 3 months ago and I'm still struggling. They
Mm-hmm.
know how to be with you and say, oh, tell me about that. There's people who are, neither helpful nor harmful. They're just like, oh, yeah, okay, well, I'm going to the grocery store now. I'll see you later. They don't, but there's also people who they don't mean to be, but they're toxic. They'll
Mm-hmm.
say things like, oh, he's in a better place now. You need to move on. Or,
Mm-hmm.
you can have other children. They'll just some of the most, hurtful things. They intend to try to take away the pain or to talk you out of it. And that's the last thing that's helpful. So I just tell people, just don't surround yourself with people who can't help. Surround yourself with people who can and are willing to.
Even with any kind of, because I mean, I've been through divorce myself, and
Hmm.
the thing about loss, I don't know why this happened, but when you lose something, it automatically make you feel like you're the only one.
Right.
I don't know how it, even though I know this before, like I know, like even when I retired from the military and I was like out there by myself, like man, I can't figure out how to find a new community. I feel like I was the only one, and I know it ain't true, but I just feel like that I just couldn't have any other feeling, but feel like I'm the only one that this thing happened to. Which
Hmm.
kind of makes sense because you're the only one with that specific experience, but you're not the only one that been through that thing. And it's
Yeah.
kind of hard to really like who do I find out, who would I reach out to because I'm feeling nobody will understand me because I feel like I'm the only one. Like this only happens to me.
Yeah.
It's crazy. I don't know why, but it's just something about loss.
It's true. And, I've heard both positives and
Hmm.
negatives about support groups.
Hmm.
Support groups that I run, it's really about community and really
Hmm.
about a safe place for
Hmm.
people. Now, sometimes when a support group is not run well, it can turn into something that just is not helpful for
Hmm.
people. But a well-run support group can be invaluable, and they don't
Hmm.
have to cost anything, or very much at all. So, like for instance, I run a free group on divorce on the
Hmm.
last Saturday of every month. It's
Hmm.
it's through Meetup, so it's just like come talk, and people just leave there feeling like they put something down. They were carrying something heavy,
Yes.
and to hear other people go, "Yeah, I feel you. I get you."
That
And
sense of
people like
relief.
that. Yeah, you just put it down. You go, "I'm not the only one," like you said.
Mm. No, that's powerful. No, I
Yeah,
really, I'm a community builder myself. I
yeah, I know
recognize
you
that
are.
the express way through failure or anything painful, whatever, is community. That's the express way through anything like that. You need
Mhm.
community because if you don't have somebody to connect you with that next level frequency, you'll be stuck in that frequency that you are, and you need somebody to prime you to
Yeah,
get you to the next level. And without the
right,
community, it's gonna take you a while to get back to spark your own fire.
right.
And sometimes we don't
It's
stay there
also
too
about
long.
entrainment. You know,
Mm-hmm.
some groups they entrain at a low level. It's a bitch session.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly what you were talking about. You know, somebody who's leading a group from a higher level of possibility
Mm-hmm.
of, faith and hope or and that kind of thing. It can raise people's energy to where they don't feel so despondent.
Mm-hmm.
So exactly what you were talking about. Yeah.
Mm. Wow,
I'm glad you're doing that, Asher.
totally. It's I know what it feels like to like to be cut off from your brotherhood
Hmm.
and you need or your sisterhood and you need like I need to connect back with my new tribe, whatever that is, that matches my new identity. Because when you lose somebody, you're gonna switch identity.
Right.
Like you were saying, you gotta go from the we to the me. What does that look like now? That's a
Hmm.
new identity.
It is.
And you gotta build that one, and who's gonna help you build it?
Right.
Because when we move into like when you were a kid growing up, somebody helped you grow into that identity because you have the family support, so forth and so on. But then when you're growing up and somebody cut you off, you gotta start off from baby level again.
Yeah.
And baby needs support. Baby need parents, right? They need family circles, and if you don't have that, it's gonna be hard to build that identity. Very
That's true.
hard.
Absolutely right.
Yeah.
I imagine you went through that when you left the military.
Oh my God.
Hmm.
Yes, it was. But I found my way. I
Yeah,
found my way. I
yeah,
found my way, and I'm back now. I'm back. I'm back fully effect. So it's been good. Happy. Yeah,
awesome.
yeah. Carrie, if you had to wrap up and tell
Yes.
us what is some of your biggest takeaway or giveaway from this conversation, what would that be?
Well, I love talking with you about, the subject that's dear to my heart, and I appreciated this opportunity
Hmm.
to to do that. My biggest takeaway is I think what you said about really maintaining that community heals.
Mm,
We need each other at these times when we're most vulnerable and we most want to close in and shut down and hide. And
mm,
so find those people, that you can connect with, your new tribe, your whatever it is. And even if it's not lifelong friends, it's a stepping stone into what's next for you.
mm. When we was talking about the community piece, what you remind me of something that I recognize. I went to this nice, awesome event this weekend with my co-host, my co-partners, right? And I was sitting in the audience and I was listening, and something hit me. And I recognized that my answer is not in the people on stage. It's in the people in the audience, the people I get to
Mm-hmm.
meet.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, I'm sitting here this whole time. I need to get out of my seat and go meet these people because for some reason the people on stage were awesome enough to magnetize and attract all these awesome people to show up. If I
Mm-hmm.
sit in my seat and just take it in the whole time, I would miss meeting some of these awesome, incredible people.
Mm-hmm.
So I started walking around. I started moving around. Like, okay, somebody in this group I was meant to meet here. I need to go make sure we connect.
Mm-hmm.
I need to move around.
Mm-hmm.
And I was thinking about you say you have your group, and I was thinking about the same thing. Sometimes we going through grief or loss, and maybe it's not you, but somebody you brought together that
Mm-hmm.
is their solution. And when they show up, they're like, "Oh my God, thank you for allowing me to meet this person because now both of us get to really connect even deeper." So I
Mm-hmm.
love bringing people together because the
Yeah.
answer is in the crowd.
Yeah. I love that, Asher. And thank
Mm.
you for doing this on your podcast. You bring people together. I see that.
Yes. Final question for you. I know you
Yes.
mentioned where people can find you, but what are your social media? You on social media and stuff?
Yeah, I have somebody who does all that stuff for me because I'm not very good
Perfect.
at remember technology.
Okay. Oh, do do
But
you
yeah,
do you
I'm
do
on
you
Facebook, I'm
you
on
on Facebook,
Instagram, I'm on LinkedIn, of
LinkedIn?
course.
Okay.
Yeah, all of those.
You Carrie Hopkins-Doubts?
Yeah, Carrie
Perfect.
Hopkins-Doubts. They can find me
Oh,
that way. Yeah,
perfect. Easy to find. Same everywhere.
that's
So
right.
final question for you. What is that one thing or two thing when people do drive you crazy?
Drives me crazy. When they don't do what they say they'll do.
Mm, commitment.
Yeah, be one with your word. If
Yeah.
you can't give your word and back it up 100%, don't give it.
That is you know a lot of people that have that problem? No, really. Look, I'm apologize. Sometimes I have to apologize to a lot of people because in my life I had a I had a really big challenge with commitment, meaning
Mm,
that because I was AD, I had a symptom of ADD, so I would
okay.
start stuff and don't finish them, and I
Yeah.
used to drive myself crazy. Like, man, I didn't get a chance to finish that thing because I'm chasing something else.
Right.
So, but when you say that, I can see I drive a lot of people crazy. Asher, God damn, one more time, you driving me crazy with that stuff. So, so I understand what you
No
mean
judgment. No
when
judgment.
people when people do that, it does drive a lot of people crazy
Yeah.
because you're expecting that this thing gonna start and finish, and when it doesn't happen, it's like, oh man,
Yeah.
I was banking on that thing and didn't go. So
Yeah.
totally understandable why that drives you crazy. All right, Carrie, it was a awesome conversation with you today. Thank you for the generous use of your time, showing up and sharing something so valuable, so heavy. If you don't know to carry it, and it sounds like you've been carrying it pretty
Mm,
good.
thank you.
And I assume that you know exactly how to help other people carry it too. And that
Yeah.
is that is a gift. 3 times. Wow.
That's what I love to do is to help people cross that bridge from
Mhm.
where you are to where you want to be.
All righty. Any last word before we close out?
No, just take good care of yourself, and that goes for you too, Asher. Thank
Hmm.
you.
All right, folks. You're tuning to Pandora's Awareness Podcast, a place where we collect stories and circulate life-changing wisdom. And you've got a lot of wisdom from Carrie because she's operating in an area where not a lot of people